Jonatha Brooke, welcome to Australian Musician.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. First time I became aware of you was when I received this album, Plum, in the
Oh my God.
90s. And I got to tell you, I couldn't stop playing it. Um,
Oh, that's so cool.
I just couldn't get over the passion and the phrasing and the song construction. To me, it was just a complete album. And I still play it over and over. Um,
Ah,
where did you learn to convey the feeling of a song rather than just recite the lyrics? Did somebody teach you that?
that's a great question. I think that I learned it well early on. Like the earliest memory I have of like being like struck with emotion by music was I think I was maybe 10 or 11 and I was waiting for my brother at his girlfriend's house, and Angie, the Rolling Stones song, Angie came on, and I found myself just like convulsed with emotion, and I was find myself crying, and I was like, wow, something just happened that is really cool. That's powerful. And my mother was very emotional. So like she like the Strauss's four last songs would make her cry and Chopin ballades would make her cry. And so I witnessed this connection, this deep connection. And then when I became after I started actually composing my own songs, I was listening to a lot of different music, and especially this Brazilian singer Elis Regina. And I think that she was the real clincher for me of like, okay, she's got this direct channel to emotion. I have no idea what she's saying because it's in Portuguese, but that is killer. Like there's this crack in her voice sometimes, and she's just fearless and unbridled. And I was like, that okay, that I need to figure that out. How does she do that? Like, so that's been sort of, I guess, what inspired me. And great singers do that. And so that's always been my goal, is to be able to tell a story with even just a twist in a lyric or a crack in my voice.
Yeah. But who were the songwriters that inspired you and made you want to dissect their songs and work out how they construct their songs?
It's funny, I was just learning a Joni Mitchell song today because I'm sort of secretly gonna perform it somewhere soon. So she certainly was someone I dissected and learned like word by word. Suzanne Vega was a big influence. Ricky Lee Jones, Stevie Wonder, the Beatles, obviously, of course, and then classical music. And like I will say like the Chopin ballades were a huge influence on me melodically. Like the just all of the melodies that weave through those pieces of piano music. And strangely, The Sound of Music, West Side Story, Godspell, like those kinds of songs that really told stories in a very different way.
Yeah. Is there one of your songs that you're particularly happy with the way it's constructed as opposed to the chart position or the accolade that you got for it?
Uh, Paris.
Yeah.
It's on Plum, so you
Yeah.
may be familiar with it.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the composition of that song. I love how it turned out. I love the production of it. I love that sort of that the words dictated that the chorus be in, I guess it's in five, that the third verse speeds up its re-entry into each line so that the plot is moving forward in a different way. I'm very proud of that piece.
Yeah. Uh, Over your career, you've written songs on guitar and piano.
Yeah,
Do you write a different kind of song on piano than you would on guitar?
I think I do. I think I'm equally clueless on both instrument in a way because I've not been trained, so I'm just making shit up on both on both instruments. But the piano seems uh, more open ended to me, and it may be sort of a kinetic thing, but it feels like if you can just sort of pick and choose where to go, and it feels like I don't know. I don't know how to explain this. It's going to sound so stupid, but it just feels like The chords are more, you can just pick and choose, like plop your hands anywhere and it'll take you to a new tonality that feels great. And the guitar, I tend to fall into patterns that I am trying now to resist, or like I'll find a new tuning so that I won't do the same thing that I did in the last tuning. But the piano is just like this mystery landscape to me, and that makes it a little more like anything could happen.
You released 4 albums with a major label, 9 on your own. What has your own label allowed you to do that you couldn't do with a major?
It's allowed me to be nimble and do things quickly and make decisions for better, for worse. Uh, Obviously, I miss those deep pockets of Warner Brothers and MCA, but the beauty of it is having it be yours, and you having full control of where it goes, how it goes, what you've said, how you've said it. And the biggest difference is just sort of recalibrating the bar, like where, how much is going to be enough. So I may not sell a million records because I don't have Warner Brothers behind me pushing a video and tour support and whatever, but I can still make great work and still do my job. And the fans don't really give a crap whether it's, you know, Electra Records or My Little Bad Dogs thing. They're just like, yay, Jonatha made another piece of work. So that's been the main thing.
Yeah, you had a couple of songs on a Disney soundtrack, Return to Neverland.
Yeah.
Were you a Disney kind of person growing up?
Not really. That's the weird thing. I mean, I still, and I'm beating myself up about this because I've still never seen The Little Mermaid. I haven't seen the newer stuff. I've just seen the movies that I've actually worked on. But I did know the original Peter Pan movie, so I was like, at least I had some back information so that I could write the song for this sequel to Peter Pan, which is called Return to Neverland. So when I wrote the song for the new protagonist, who's Wendy, the original Wendy, Wendy in Peter Pan, her daughter Jane is now the hero of the new movie. So I sort of I had the ballpark idea, and I knew, well, it's a 12-year-old girl. I'm perfect for this. I'm great at those sort of 12-year-old emotional stories. So it was just a great call to get, like that, to have the trust of the mouse to tell the story that actually ended up holding the movie together in a way.
What do you know about recording now that you didn't know the first time you walked into a studio?
I know that doing 100 takes is a really stupid idea. I know now that if I'm super prepared and I'm in good voice and physically feeling good, if 3 takes should do it. And it's usually the first or second take that is the take. And I love that about growing older, it's this sort of idea of like, there are diminishing returns if you just start beating the thing up. And I'm confident enough now to know, wow, that was a performance, and I want to keep that. I don't have to make every syllable perfect and in tune. And it's about conveying emotion, like we said earlier. It's about a performance that you then bring to the world. And that's what I'm so happy to know now, because man, we would beat ourselves up and we would do like so many takes just to get, and also you had to do it all in one take. Like you couldn't cut and paste like you can now with Pro Tools. You couldn't just move stuff around or fix it. You had to get it all. It was a good woodshed. Like we all learned how to sing well. Really great community, great, everyone knows their stuff. They also have this beautiful recording studio there, and they do recording engineering workshops. So I've been lucky enough to do a couple there. This particular one I did last December, and the idea was to do a workshop about like what it's like to record with your band, with a great, with amazing musicians, but to like record live, like not piece by piece, which most people do these days, like really going for takes, like playing all together with separation and gorgeous microphones and a gorgeous studio and sound, and but to do it as a band. And so that was the idea of the workshop. And so these 15 gear geeks got to sort of witness these songs going down. And as I was talking about it with Mark Hornsby, who's my co-producer, we were like, well, wait a minute, we should make a record while we're there. Like, it shouldn't just be a workshop. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to get some great stuff out of this. I brought my guitar player, Sean Driscoll, and we were using all of their house guys, Nick DiVirgilio, who I had toured with a few years ago, Phil Nash, Dave Martin. So it was like an all-star band. So we decided to choose 11 songs from my entire sort of career and pluck them out and redo them with this new sort of energetic approach and see what happened. And we got some great performances.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened.
Yeah, as a young singer-songwriter, starting out, what would you have got out of a session like that?
What would I have what?
What would you have got out of a session like that if you were one of the students?
Oh, if I was one of the students, I would have been over the moon. I think it would have been so reassuring to see how the interplay happens between musicians, how ideas happen in a room, how an idea can just fall flat on its face, but everyone can, you'll survive. And how like a last minute thing could just turn this, like this is what happened on Hide Your Love Away, the cover song that we did, the Beatles song that we did. At the last minute, I started dancing in the control room to the rhythm of the song, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a jig. There needs to be a jig rhythm over the 6/8 that we're doing. Like, this could be super cool if we just bang that out. And so we went back and we tried it that way, and we were like, nah, that's wicked cool. So, but if I were like just starting out, and I would love to have seen, I think this is important for anybody, especially the workshoppers, was to see someone struggle. Like there was the second day where I wasn't in particularly good voice and I was having a rough time and I just couldn't. There was one song that was just kicking my ass and I was not getting it. And thank goodness it didn't sort of take me down, and I didn't run out of the room in a tantrum. I just was like, hey, this is not going to happen today. So here's an example of that. Like, I'm having trouble connecting to whatever it is. My vocal's just not feeling right today, but we got a great take with the band, and I'll probably end up adding the vocal later. So I would have loved to see that too, so that I wouldn't beat myself up so much in the early days.
How did you go about selecting the songs?
That was the hardest part. It was mostly to find ones that really resonated and that I know fans love, but that I hadn't ever reapproached before. So, The Angel in the House, that's from 1994, and it's always one that people want to hear live, but I'd never gotten a decent live recording of it, so it felt imperative. Prodigal Daughter, I thought, like, no one ever really heard that song, and I love it so much, so I'm like, this one's going on. So it was more like choosing the ones that were a little bit more obscure but still beloved, and beloved to me more than anything. And then the Disney song was important because I felt like Disney owns that master, and I really wanted to have my own version of it that I control.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about a little bit about the gear that you use. With acoustic guitars, the main guitar which artists create on usually has a story of its own. Does your main acoustic guitar have a story?
It's got a pretty good story. It's just a beautiful beast. It's an Olsen guitar, and it's funny that I ended up in Minnesota because James Olsen is a Minnesota luthier. You've seen his guitars. James Taylor plays them. Paul Simon has one. I think Sting has one. But this particular guitar, James is just an incredible sweetheart. So I came to him with this request, like, could you, like, the neck, I need the neck to be a certain way because I have very small hands. So I need the neck to be like this way. I'm going to play it mostly in this weird tuning. So could you actually build the guitar for my weird tuning, which has a low C and then a G basically chord over that? And he was thrilled. He was thrilled. He's just like, yeah, I can do that. I'll brace it extra hard because you're going to use heavier strings, and I can make the neck more like a girl neck. And sure, that'll be a great challenge. And then he threw in the little inlay birdies, the little swallows on the fretboards for free. So that's the story behind my main axe.
Yeah. In regard to electric guitars, I believe you prefer Tellys?
I got a Telly, yeah. That's from my Danish. I had a little endorsement for a while from Fender, and I was touring pretty regularly in Denmark. So my Fender guy in Denmark, Knut Dangard, got me a really beautiful purple Telly. I don't know if you can see it back there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's my Danish Telly.
Yeah. And what do you use for keyboards at home for writing?
I use Casio.
Okay.
Yeah, they have been lovely and endorsed me, and especially when I was doing my one woman show off Broadway, they were just so generous, and they supplied the keyboard, and then I got to bring it home when the show was over. So Casio is awesome. I love the feel. I love the sounds they have. I love the little drum things that you can sort of write to. Like you could, yeah, I'm not very techy. I'm not very loopy or Pro Toolsy. I just love pushing buttons and having things work. So Casio for me it's just awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned the off-Broadway show. How much of your life did that take up?
That took up a lot of my life. Well, first of all, the story that inspired it took up, a good 3 years of my life. It's basically a love story about me and my mother,
Yeah.
and caring for my mother for her last 2 years. My mom had Alzheimer's, but she was just a character. And during the course of our last time together, it was very clear that her story was way bigger than just 10 new songs. It needed to be theater. So that's what grew out of our time together. Everything else got put on hold, and I ended up writing this theater piece. Like, I did not see that happening, but I wrote this theater piece, and then a year after that, we produced it off Broadway, and it was a big success. So it was like a 4-year detour, basically. And then ever since then, I've been like, okay, but there's this other thing that I used to do that I'm trying to get back to. So like, and then the pandemic. So like we're all home for, at least the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So it's like every week it's like a world tour from my kitchen, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've really taken to social media in a very active way. You're doing these kitchen COVID concerts. How are you finding the experience?
It's a learning curve for sure. And thank you for the compliment, because it's definitely, it's a whole other job, this managing the social media parts of things and trying to be honest and true and not just be like manipulative and just posting shit to post stuff, and then the learning curve of just the technical stuff about performing for a little green dot once a week, in the toaster oven, it's a real. Luckily, I do think that the acting part of my gig off Broadway really helped prepare me for just having the confidence and the stillness and the metal to do that every week, and to just somehow believe that people were rooting for me, and that everything was going okay, and that it probably sounded fine, and the audience was loving it. And you just have to pretend, because you have no idea. And if they don't love it, then they're just going to do something else anyway. So like everything's going to be fine. So it's just been a sonic learning curve, because I started out with just my iPhone and a little, I don't know if I have it here, just, oh yeah, this little MV88. I just started out with this and my iPhone.
Yeah.
And that was my sound. And so I had to sort of temper it and figure out like, okay, if it's here, then you get enough of the voice and the guitar doesn't drown it out. And it was just sort of hunting and pecking for the right thing. And lately, the last few concerts, I've added a little mixer and a couple of microphones so that you can hear the vocal a little better. But it's been exciting mostly because the fans are awesome and so loyal and so generous, and they're actually keeping me alive.
Yeah.
So,
I was looking through your social media, and I was looking for photos of Australia, and I couldn't see any. Have you never been?
I've never been. And
How has,
I so wanted to, and there was a moment actually after Plum,
yeah.
because Plum was doing really well, and the company was kind of behind me. They had put some money into it. I'd made a couple of videos, and I was on tour with some awesome musicians, including Abe Laboriel, who now tours with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And there was talk about sending me to Australia, and I was so psyched. And then, of course, regime change at the top, all of my people disappeared and no one knew what to do with me, and all of the excitement just sort of peddled out. So and so I just haven't been able to swing it since then.
Yeah, we just need to get rid of this pandemic. We'll try again.
Okay, that would be so lovely. I've so always wanted to come there. And Joe Laurie, I don't know if you know Joe Laurie, the singer. She's sung with Sting for the last
Okay.
gazillion years, but she's Australian and she's toured with me a tiny bit over the past couple of years. She's in Australia now because she just had her second baby, and so thank God she got there before she got trapped. Where healthcare is
Yeah.
affordable and or free, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to go visit her as well.
Well, you're always welcome. Um,
Thanks.
so the revised plans for 2020.
Oh my God. Well, doing a concert every week sort of keeps me honest and makes me work, and I'm practicing more than I've ever practiced because I've had to like relearn all of my catalog to keep the stuff new each week. I've been teaching master classes really regularly, and that's exciting because I've been doing it in person for a few years now, but to learn to do it this way is a great new thing, and people are digging it, and that's awesome. What else? I'm working on a musical with an amazing playwright named Jacqueline Backus. So we're getting a little momentum going right now, and I mean, who knows when that will, when theaters will be safe, but at least like when I need to be busy or else I could really, really spiral into a very deep, dark place.
Yeah.
So I'm very busy, and that's the best that I can make of it. But it's like we're gonna be stuck at home till probably next summer, I would think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jonatha Brooke, it's been wonderful to catch up with you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.